Let me tell you a little bit of the swamp donkey. Swamp donkey originated because we always practiced in horrible conditions. The ground we would run on wasn't firm. It was more mush, more like a swamp. And we emerged strong and powerful, like a donkey. So in essence, we are strong and powerful, like the swamp and the donkey. That's why we were called the Swamp Donkeys.
When I saw Trio explain the origin of the swamp donkey, I knew I wanted to be one. I mean, it's ridiculous sounding, but for some reason I couldn't explain. I wanted to be on this ridiculous team. I ended up playing for the Swamp Donkeys for 5 years, and upon graduating, I decided I was still not done with the team yet. I kept telling myself that there had to be more to contribute, to accomplish. I wasn't sure, but I knew that there was something left, extra energy that the team deserved from me. It seemed crazy to others for me to love something like an ultimate Frisbee team so much, and at times, I even began to agree with them. But then I began asking questions. Why do I love this team? Why can't I let it go? I realized that my answer lied with my teammates, so I began asking them the same questions in passing. As conversations ensued, the idea of this project developed, and I realized where my energy could go. I wanted to share this team to everyone I could and show them why it means so much to me, in an effort to hopefully ignite that interest that Trio ignited in me many years ago. If I could, maybe they could also share in this wonderful and ridiculous experience that is Swamp Donkey Ultimate. This isn't the story of a championship season, nor is it a video diary of my stories with the team. This project is merely a dedication to the history, love, and opportunity that this team offers people to be a part of. I present to you the SwampDoc.
You know what, man? I mean, this is it. Like this is my family. These are my guys, and I'm gonna roll with Swamp forever.
No matter the record or year, UTC Ultimate has always retained a fair amount of character.
Hey, how much you want to bet? I can throw a hammer from midfield into the yes.
I so mad on 3. I'm awesome.
Try to win 2 out of 3.
Wow.
This past season marks the 5th year in a row that the Swamp Donkeys have surpassed their school record, this time by finishing 5th in the Southeast Regionals. This progress is due to many aspects, including fantastic recruiting classes, improved leadership, and some clutch wins along the way. But the most influential factor driving the Swamp Donkey team today is the community of supporters that rally behind it. This community consists of friends, family, and most importantly, the alumni that have experienced the team for themselves. In its beginnings, the UTC Ultimate Club consisted of a ragtag group of men and women coming together as friends to simply play for the spirit of the game. Over the course of 18 years, the club flourished, providing the university with 2 competitive Ultimate programs consisting of an even larger group of friends that now pride themselves with the title of a Swamp Donkey or Moxie Ultimate player. Although this progress was long in the making, the culture, camaraderie, and spirit has remained constant since the team's conception. the credit for which undoubtedly belongs to Jen Smith. Jen Smith is the official founder of the UTC Ultimate Frisbee Club in 1999. Thanks to her, as well as some other members of the Naked Pretzel League, Ultimate came to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, the place where many college students have lived out lifelong memories and established lifelong friendships, both of which would come to define their college experience altogether. So let's go back to where it all began, and hear from the players that experienced the creation of what is now known as SwampDoc Ultimate.
Actually, SwampDoc wasn't the name until after I ran out of eligibility. It was Moccasin Ultimate. I started playing my final semester as an undergraduate at UTC. There was a group of us from the Prez House, is what it was called back then. They call it the house now, but we would show up at this field in front of the arena, which is where the arc is now. And we would play like 12 on 12, and there was no back end zone. You could catch a touchdown, as we called it, in the street. And one night, a couple guys showed up. One of them was Phil Mantell. The way that I started playing Ultimate was Jen Smith put a flyer up in Fletcher Hall. And I was like, well, I played a little bit in high school. I'm going to try this out. But the Young Life people, they would play 20 on 20 Ultimate at like 10 in the evening, no matter what the condition. Yeah, I was just basically huck it in the air and just see who could come down with it. They just wanted to come out and play with us, and they didn't try and change what we were doing. They just came out and had fun and goofed off with us, and Phil did a great job over a couple months of just slowly introducing some things to us. And after those couple months, he invited, I think, like 5 or 6 of us. Hey, there's this club Ultimate Frisbee team that had just started, and we think you guys would have fun and be good at it. We actually went to sectionals in '99 in Alabama. We did well. I mean, we won all of our games, but we couldn't go to regionals because we were ineligible due to pickup of Chattanooga player. We played that one semester. It was our UTC's first time ever going to the sectional tournament. That was kind of when the team had first started. But then I graduated, and I left town for 2 years. And Phil was around, Tom Owen was around, and a guy named Kenny Ray Johnson.
I think I ended up moving to Chattanooga in August of 2000, and I knew all the 4 people in Chattanooga, and 3 of them were family members. I was just milling around school, and I saw one of the flyers up on the wall, and I'm like, you know what? I like Frisbees. Let me go see what this is all about.
We were Moccasin Ultimate, and that was Rayleigh. And we had yellow shirts with a dark blue writing, and in the back said swoop and poop. One of our cheers was like cawing like a crow and break away from the, whatever huddle, like bring it in, and then would flap our arms like birds and squat and poop.
So, went over and I saw Jen Smith was the only person there. She was putting on her cleats. I walked up like, hey, is this where the Ultimate Frisbee is at? She said, yeah, awesome. I would like to play. And, those days there weren't just a whole lot of people there.
But the first, fall semester, there'd be 5, 6, 7 of us. There definitely wasn't 7 on 7. It was a small team. Probably 3 girls, 4 guys. Sometimes we might have a sub.
Half the team were noobs like I was. No forehands, all backhands, no strategy at all. Just let's see what we can do.
I feel like we won a game. We didn't do very well, but some guys had literally been playing Frisbee for a couple of weeks, if even that, and we bring them out to this tournament. It was ugly a couple of times.
Went that way for a little bit. She said, hey, we're going to go to a tournament. It's in Knoxville. Okay. And we ended up, we scored 3 or 4 points each game, and we were good, fine.
We had a lot of heart. We tried hard. We always had a great time. There was always a party at tournaments. We pretty much would always win the party.
Very good. Let's go win the party. Let's try and win the party. After a valiant effort, came home, battered and bruised, woke up, and we had 7 people. And who do we draw? We drew Georgia. Georgia Square must have had 20 people. And they knew that they were going to drill us. Sure enough, though, back and forth, Jen yelling at us for not running. And came down to Universe Point. They turned it. We got it down to the end zone. We turned it, and then what do? They huck it back to the end zone. Oh, come on. Phil's back there. Phil! He D's it, but he D's it just enough to where he maxes it over to the Georgia guy who comes down with it in the end zone, and they beat us on Universe.
We just loved playing. It didn't matter who or where or, even if we didn't have a team, we just really loved playing at that point.
We'd show up and we'd play some 2-on-2 or I don't even remember the names of the games we'd play.
I mean, during the Frisbee season, a lot of us would be playing 6 days a week ultimate.
Point there where 6 out of the 7 nights a week I was doing something with Ultimate, whether it was UTC practices or pickup games or leagues or something. Coming to Chattanooga, not knowing anybody, those guys became like my best friends.
Those are guys that I talked to. Tom Owen was in my wedding. I was at Tom's wedding. I was at Phil's wedding. And those are guys that are lifelong friends that you don't get to see as often, but definitely great when you get to see them and spend time with them. We were scoring points, and we were having a blast, and we were getting beat by high school kids on occasion. We knew we were laying a foundation for what we hoped would be, something down the road.
Yeah. You know what? I like the players. No diggity, no doubt. Play on, play it. Play on, play it. Yo, Trey, drop the verse.
So when I moved back, though, I was working at the university as an admissions counselor, and so I kind of had this inside track with what was going on campus and with students, and so I started helping the guys, and we started getting the team going again, and some of those first guys that we brought in are guys that are still around town. Brett Ritchie was there early on, and Nick Moore.
I didn't know anybody on campus at all at UTC, like 0 people, and so my roommates said they had heard of some people playing Ultimate Frisbee out on Challenger Field. So followed them over there. We got there. We're sitting on the sidelines, and this guy, who later I would know as Rayleigh Parker, said, "All right, everybody get up. Let's take a couple of laps to warm up and then stretch, and then we'll run some drills." And so I got up, started running my laps, and I looked around, and my roommates were nowhere to be found. I ended up sticking around. During that time, actually met Nick Moore, who became one of my best friends and future roommate and groomsman and all that sort of stuff. But he ended up, he lived in the UTC dorm on the floor right below mine. And so we ended up walking back and forth to practices together and developed, I guess before it was even a thing, developed a bromance.
A bunch of people come out, right when school first started, and we wanted people to be a part. We wanted them to, take ownership and them to get plugged in. And so we were like, hey, we're going to name the team. We're not just going to be UTC, Ultimate. And so we had everybody kind of submit some ideas for names.
2003 and probably the years following that. It's probably around the time that college ultimate in our area started becoming not just hippies and pot smokers. You started having people who had actually played ultimate before college. For UTC in particular, we started becoming more than just an extension of the name of UTC. So we didn't want to be just UTC Ultimate anymore. We wanted to separate ourselves a little bit and come up with something that was truly and uniquely us. Rayleigh had circled us up out there at Challenger Field and asked for ideas. And one of the guys, Hunter Jones.
Yeah, Hunter Jones.
He said, "Oh, we should call the team Swamp Donkey."
Swamp Donkey said because of the artificial wetland that was there next to Challenger Field. So we kind of practiced next to a swamp, and he just thought it was a cool name. There was like 2 or 3 names that we were voting on, and all of them were equally horrible, but Swamp Donkeys was the coolest horrible one.
Everybody got to vote. Swamp Donkeys was the winner.
It started giving us an identity, really, that was unique to pretty much any other team.
I was not too fond of that. It stuck, but in time it definitely grew on me, and it became something that we loved and were proud of.
And we started actually becoming competitive-minded, not at the expense of having fun, but really started focusing on bettering ourselves as a team, being competitive. 6 players in particular that we centered around and had captains through, pushed the team in a direction that made us competitive.
We had the 6-pack. It was Nick Moore, Brett Ritchie, Brian Klein, Zach Robbins, Jason Bennett, and Mike Walgamuth. So they all brought something different, and when they came together, they worked pretty well together.
We all had a different skill set. We all good at different things and bad at different things, so we all kind of fit well together.
So Zach had probably the best throws on the field, and super quick, would dominate the field while handling, but he would be huck happy. So we started playing him on defense more often. And Brett, we'd put him on offense because he's a horrible defensive player.
Brett was a really good thrower. He, I think, had one of the best flicks on the team.
He had an arsenal of throws, and he was willing to unleash at any time. Nick Moore was a good, consistent handler.
If I had to pick the ultimate Swamp Donkey of all time, it would have to be Nick Moore. Nick Moore is just like one of the coolest guys I've ever met. Real good handler, put it wherever it needs to be.
Nick was really level-headed. He was really good during like timeouts and stuff at like setting us up and getting us calmed down.
Nick Moore was always grinning, always smiling, like friendly face.
Brian Klein was a really good downfield cutter. He was practically open at will and was one of the better people that I had seen in the air.
The disc would be coming, and man, he would sky the hell out of anybody. You couldn't see it because he didn't look like he was like super athletic, but he'd get everything and really consistent player.
I think I saw him throw more greatest than I've seen any single person throw.
Bennett and Mike were the fiery defenders.
Jason Bennett and Mike Wall, 2 of the fastest guys I've ever played with, hustled all the time, played with a whole lot of intensity.
Jason Bennett and Mike Wall were so active, like they did a lot for the team. They were behind workout plan and like having like conditioning.
Mike Wall. Mike actually handled a lot of the organizational stuff for it. I don't want to label him as like the toilet organizer, but like I remember for Romp in the Swamp, he like called and set up porta potties, and like none of us had thought of that. I'm like, oh yeah, you gotta have a place to piss. It worked well in a lot of ways. Looking back on it, I'm glad there were 6 of us instead of like 1 or 2 people trying to handle everything.
All of us really started playing together in 2004. I think 2004 is when Jason Bennett and Brian Klein started. And then Mike Wall started in 2004, but was also kind of around the whole entire time.
So whenever I made the decision to go to UTC, I went to some of the pre-freshman stuff. And at that point, the Frisbee table was manned by Nick Moore, Hunter Jones. And so, they just have a sign-up sheet, put your name on it, they send out an email. I did not connect with those guys, though, freshman year. So I ended up doing Young Life. And when I became a sophomore in college, Rayleigh convinced me I needed to go check out a Swamp Donkey practice, and so I did.
The 6-pack was very important to that process of trying to establish a good cycle of bringing new people in and keeping them in.
I'm going to have that inside track at the university and pursuing my master's degree, which was in education. So I designed a curriculum and presented it to the university, and we started an Ultimate Frisbee class that you could sign up and take.
Rayleigh Parker was the one that got me into it. I think I was at my freshman orientation, and he was helping me sign up for classes.
And then I'd meet somebody who I could tell was athletic or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, you should take that ultimate Frisbee class. I hear it's pretty awesome.
I don't think I'd ever thrown a Frisbee up until that point, and very clearly communicated that I wasn't that interested. He got me to sign up anyway, and I guess the rest is kind of history from there.
It was huge for our recruiting and stuff.
We split to an A and B team at one point, and Jet was one of the guys who kind of took over coaching. So we had Jet work with the A team, and then I'd work with just all the new guys. And they would go and have a blast with it, and as time went, and they got hooked.
We were always competitive, in our own right. Each player took it a little seriously in their own head, but we always had fun.
There was always the Frisbee house. Whoever had it. The house became mine and Nick Moore's and a couple other guys' houses. We had rock band nights all the time where Moxie would come over and we'd stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, singing along with classic rock songs.
So just getting to gel with those guys, and I thought that was really cool, just being able to be a part of that. And so my sophomore year, we were really looking forward to making it to regionals. We started doing conditioning, mandatory conditioning in the spring if you wanted to be on the A team.
We had a real shot at making it past sectionals. UTC had never done the regionals thing before.
I think our best year as a college team, we were up in Virginia. We had sectionals up in Virginia. Yeah, we would drive like 13 hours for sectionals.
And it sucked. Every year that we played, a lot of people couldn't go to Richmond. Captains on the team couldn't go to Richmond.
So we're up there, and we beat Virginia Tech, we beat UT, we beat teams we shouldn't have been beating.
We beat Georgia for the first time. We beat Georgia Tech for the first time, which they both had strong teams.
We went 4-0 and had a crossover game, and we lost that on Universe. Had we beaten Richmond on Universe, all we had to do was win one game on Sunday to make it. And since we lost on Universe, we had to win about 2 or 3, and we just never could get it down.
We were like a game and a half from going to regionals that year. UTC Ultimate's been a huge part of my life, just from starting in 2003 and then 2005, dated a Moxie girl that I ended up marrying. And then, I lived with a couple of Swamp Donkeys for at least 3 years, 4 or 5, something like that, and been a groomsman in a lot of their weddings. So, UTC Ultimate, however cliche it sounds, changed my life.
Not only were we the Swamp Donkeys Ultimate team, but we were all best friends and lived together and hung out together. I don't know. Yeah, it was like we were a family.
Like, you don't pay to be a Swamp Donkey. Like, you choose to be a Swamp Donkey, and then you kind of like sacrifice your schedule, your weekends, and your time so that you can hang out with guys, you can play, you can, work out, stuff like that. It's a community that's based on friendship and, athleticism and sportsmanship and, spirit. And I feel like the six-pack had a pretty solid grasp on, especially when we were playing together.
Behind time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
So we were a transitional team. We were a team who never got out of sectionals. We had all these things to kind of get you to the next level. Whenever you transition to that next level, you lose a lot of people.
3 groups of people basically held the team together over 8 years or 10 years or whatever that is.
I had this big gap of years after the six-pack went away. I don't really know what happened to the team at all.
I don't know if anybody really knows what happened to the team. So we lost a significant amount of people after the six-pack year due to graduation, due to just not wanting to play anymore. We tried to be too competitive too soon with the lack of talent that we had.
We changed to be more competitive. That's where the sport was going. When we first started, no one we knew were really at that elite level yet. And that's kind of where we lost all our numbers.
I mean, starting my junior year, we had a starting 7 that were all juniors.
There was nobody. It was, I can almost name all of them, because I think it was 12 people one of those years.
So we didn't necessarily know who was going to be the person or people to step up into the leadership position. If I remember correctly, it was Trip Dacus and Thomas Aracco as the 2 leaders, and they didn't necessarily have the experience for it.
People had bad attitudes, so the leadership wasn't very good back then. And I can say that because I was a captain, and I was a dick. I was playing elite level ultimate, and I go from club to college and having to deal with kids again.
Thomas is one of the most gifted ultimate players I've played with. Pretty much, if he wants to do something, it's going to be done. Like, if he wants to put something somewhere, if he wants to out-jump somebody. I think when it got to that year, he didn't really have anyone to push him. You know, it was hard for him without the six-pack.
Roger and Tori would boost it to Thomas, and literally 9 times out of 10, he came down with it. He was just really good at timing the disc and knowing when and where to jump, and his hands just seemed to go through everyone else's and just pluck the disc out from everyone else's hand. It was really cool.
Thomas was absolutely a dominant player for sure, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. Thomas was by far my favorite receiver. Sorry, Garrison. Garrison was a downfield cutter. You could rely on him to get open underneath, and you could rely on him to get open deep. He could make the big plays as well, whenever you needed him to. I'm not knocking on him at all, whenever I was saying that Thomas was my favorite receiver. Garrison was definitely a great player. He, by far, probably has the most scores out of any UTC player that's ever been to UTC and ever will go to UTC.
Mom and Dad had got me this giant whiteboard for freshman year, and it was after the first tournament I played. Mom was like, "Well, how'd you do? How many times did you score?" So when she said that, I went home and I wrote it down on a whiteboard. And so all the team gave me a hard time, made fun of me and stuff for it, but I kept it all totaled up, and I got right to my last tournament right away from 300. So. James Gaynor. He's just got that voice that gets you pumped up when he's calling a cheer, on the sideline or things like that. And it was our senior year. We came up with drown him in the water, swamp, 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 leave him there to rot, swamp, 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 cheer. And, man, I'm telling you what, there's nothing that pumps me up more than being on the sideline and running out after doing that cheer with all those guys. It's pretty incredible.
Tori and I, in terms of handling, I felt like we were rather cohesive in terms of how we wanted to handle the disc. We were both looking for the quick movement, give and go type style, throw and go. It was pretty okay. I think that we kind of worked well together on the field.
There was a younger Tori who stood out immediately. He was just good with the disc. He was quick, and he was just a cool dude who wanted us all to like Frisbee.
Roger King is just a freak show. Watching him play for the first couple of years, it was all right, that's the bar, and he was a good guy to look up to, and was an incredible player.
Tony played Frisbee more stylish, and the way he would move on the field was more. It almost looked like he was dancing. He was one of the first people, or at least at that time, he was one of the only people that lived and breathed it. He got really good, really fast, and, now he's one of the best players I know.
Come sectional time, we didn't have a team to field, and we knew what we were capable of. I think we'd only won maybe 5 games the entire spring semester, so we were not about to drive up to Richmond, Virginia. So to the shame of Chattanooga, other people affiliated with Chattanooga, we did not go to sectionals that year as a college team.
3, 2,
The following year, a little bit of a turnaround in terms of numbers and performance. That was the year that we introduced Tripp, Stanford, and Javi Ortiz to the team.
That's how I like it. I like it real hard, real fast, real swampy.
My first experience talking to anyone on the team, I laid out for a score on Tripp Stanford, and Tripp congratulated me, told me it was really cool, but that I should never do it again because it'll make them look bad. And I pretty much knew from that point onward I would really get along with the team. Someone who really embodies Swamp and just like the grittiness of Swamp is definitely Javi. Time Javi came to practice, he put in more work than anyone else. I mean, the guy is just a workhorse. Anytime Javi needed to come up big, he would come up big.
I'm clocking that game. Everyone's a winner, we're making our fame. Bonafide hustler, making my name.
Aaron was probably one of the first big guys that we ever had on the team. He could effortlessly juice a flick, like with minimal arm action.
Oh yeah, Grant was okay. No, Grant was just like really welcoming.
He was that kind of player. Like, he was a short, stocky guy. He was quick and could just get open and throw the disc.
Yeah, Michael Bowman for sure. I just connected with him in a lot of different ways. We kind of believed the same things and just kind of went about tournaments the same way. And so,
are we going to include that? Is that going to be in this? Oh.
The green and gray year, he went over in terms of win-loss column, as well as we got bageled by Georgia Tech.
Just let it be known it was Roger's idea.
We decided that we wanted to kind of reestablish ourselves, let's have a new identity. We don't want to identify with the Swamp Donkeys that just got bageled at an entire tournament. So we're going to reinvent the wheel here.
It may have made sense at the time. Looking back on it, may not be so much, but...
So we're going to change the name, and we're like throwing around ideas, and people are like, locomotion.
Like a band that tries to reinvent itself, and then all the fans hate it afterwards.
And then we got the really obnoxious unicorn puke jerseys that every boy band should have.
All this kind of stuff, and then we're like, let's just short it to Loco.
Loco year was a year.
I think Loco made us get our footing as to wanting to be a serious team.
It was a recruitment issue, and instead of developing a great program, we were developing great players. From what I can remember, everybody was just ready for a change.
Really, we were just kind of focused on being the best individual players that we could. Kind of came back the next year a little more focused, especially on getting new people.
I knew the program would ramp up. The thing about Swamp, and the thing I think will always be true, Swamp will forever be a team where you get out what you put in. We were trying to accumulate talent by our blessings. A lot of big hitters came in.
Dude, legend. He was just an easy person to have on the team. You could just be like, TP, this is what we need, and he was like, okay, I'll do it.
He took so much pride getting people to love the team.
Grant and TP were the main ones who taught me to love and enjoy and laugh while playing a game. Yes, you want to compete at a high level, but you can't be consumed by that to where you forget why you're playing. Whenever you see me having fun on the sidelines, it's because I learned it from those guys.
The whole sideline thing came up because Grant started it. I saw that and how it was kind of affecting them and tried to amp it up as much as I possibly could. It was a lot of fun. I lost my voice that tournament for sure. Like, I don't care too much about scores and who won what. Just the random things that made playing the sport so much more fun.
As much as I hate exploding his ego even more than it already is, I don't think we would have as good of an offensive line even today if Blake Waldron hadn't have chosen to come to Chattanooga.
We all knew who he was before he got there. We had seen his YouTube videos. I mean, we can talk shit as much as we want, but, like, he was exactly what we needed.
Blake consistently had sound mechanic advice on how to throw. He had great positioning advice on how to do flash cuts. And, I mean, the guy is positive to a fault, even though we gave him so much shit for being arrogant.
First semester, me as a freshman coming in, and I probably had a very high opinion of myself, and so I wanted to start and I wanted to play, and that caused some tension.
He was like a good person to rally around, and he had that natural athleticism, and we would butt heads a little bit because he had that and I didn't.
I'm not saying there weren't any times where we disagreed. Me and Tim have always had, I think, a very healthy competitiveness to our game. You know, we came in the same year, played the same position, so it was just kind of we've always had this nice competition between each other.
Saw that friendly competition between him and Blake, and the way that they, both wanted to be the top thrower, and they both fought for that. And Blake definitely had that natural talent that every great athlete needs, and Tim had a lot more fight.
He was the hardest worker. When Tim first started playing at UTC, he was, for lack of a better word, he was round. He did not look like an athlete. He could kind of throw, but he wanted to be good. And unlike a lot of people that play this sport that say they want to be good, he put his money where his mouth was and he worked his butt off. I don't think he even realized it, but a lot of the guys followed his lead as far as like his hard work. We had, a meeting with returning players the week before, and like talked about expectations, talked about like what we're going to be doing at the first practice. The first thing was like Paul leading the charge hated the Loco name. Let's change it back. And so we put it to a team vote, and the team was like, yeah, we want to go back to SwampDoc.
But still, we're like, all right, we're Swamp Donkeys. We're still playing on a mud, nasty field. Like, nothing has changed.
I think redshirt year was an extension of Loco, where we were really trying to ramp up what the program was. That was the first year where we really looked at these big tournaments, and we would look at the rosters between us and them, and we would say, yeah, they have maybe double our people, but we have the same amount of talent on the line.
We had so many cool guys show up in like 2012 class.
One of the biggest things for me was like pick out one or two guys that you bond with well, or that you like see a lot of potential in, and like teach them everything you can. And for me, that was Tim and Cody. And I think for Poppy, it was Zach and Foster a lot.
Like, from any year that I wasn't a freshman, Foster was one of the only ones that came in and I immediately liked. Not only because he was good, but just because he didn't give a shit. Like, he was just never a pain in the ass in any way.
And it was Javi. It was like, oh yeah, I know you. And so when he said that, I was kind of like, oh, these guys already know who I am from me playing in high school, I guess. I knew a couple guys that already were there playing, and I knew Zach.
The first friend I made was Foster. We played against each other in high school. He was the captain of Independence, I was the captain of Blackman, and we bonded pretty fast.
Chipper, yeah. Yeah, that's his name. He was kind of the same way, except I think he was more shy than Foster was.
Zach Avello makes offense look easier than anybody else despite not doing anything outstanding. He doesn't do anything flashy, he doesn't make big throws, he doesn't make crazy break shots, he doesn't lay out, but he just always is in the right spot, so he doesn't have to. He just runs the disc down. He's one of the fastest people I think I've played with.
Zach Avello, all I can remember is that him being just way too fast for no reason, because he doesn't look like he would be fast.
Cody came in my senior year, and he was one of the only other people from Knoxville, and actually stuck with it.
He was one of the few people that were staying after practice every day to throw and work on stuff.
Throughout his freshman year, it just became more and more apparent that like he was an immediately effective player.
Cody is the most explosive player on the field at any given time. And if Zach is the most dynamic and versatile player on an offensive line, Cody is his perfect partner on the defensive line.
If I'm playing defense and Cody Havens is not playing defense with me, I'm getting off.
So we were used to working hard, but we weren't used to playing together as a team and playing a system. And that was where a lot of teams beat us. Our standings didn't improve from the local year to the redshirt year, but we actually played better Frisbee. And I think like really set up the next round of guys to know what it takes to be competitive. It really was going the direction that, you know, like the vision that I had for it and like what I wanted to carry on from the six-pack guys who had high hopes for it.
I knew that we had always shot for regionals and we never made it. And so it was a really simple thought, but I said, what if we shoot for nationals? And so I told the team that a lot, like the goal is nationals. But really, I just wanted to go to regionals.
Fall of 2013, we lost a third of our team. We lost 5 guys who were playing almost every point in the previous season.
We lost probably about 90% of our talent. Aaron inherited this team.
My whole grade was gone when they left, you know.
You still had Grant.
Yeah. I didn't have his knees, though. His knees weren't available, so he couldn't play. You know, I didn't actually want to captain that badly. I wanted to make sure Swamp was still around because it had given me 3 really fun years. So I was happy to captain just to get that, like to play Ultimate, to play good Ultimate, and to do it with my friends. So it really was more a means to an ends.
Aaron took on that challenge to really get that team together and, I mean, led us to our first tournament win.
Absolutely, like, ecstatic to win a tournament with all the young guys. And then, to me, it felt like, okay, this is real. Like, we lost all of our stars. However, maybe it wasn't about that.
That was our first tournament of that season in the fall. And so, of course, we're going to have the most new players come to that tournament, but some ones that stood out that ended up sticking around and eventually becoming key players on the team were David McKay, Austin Runyon, and of course, David Thomas.
Player was like, this kid, David Thomas, is coming out to practice. I'm super excited. And I was like, well, shoot, if player's excited about some kid named David Thomas, then he's probably not bad at Frisbee.
Like, you see David Thomas, and he has this huge, beautiful, perfect smile. He, like, reaches out his hand to shake your hand before anything is even said. And you know he's just going to be like, hey, guys, it's nice to meet you. Like, the most positive person in the world. This kid, nothing is going to get him down.
I think within the first 5 conversations with McKay, I think Aaron Hazen knew he was going to be some recruiting tool. And we were like, this is the personality we want to just like shove down everyone's throat to get a huge team.
I looked at him, I was like, oh, he's a cutter. Like, he's a cutter and he's going to go deep. And after talking to him, he expressed that he was a cutter and he liked to go deep. So first impressions were right on with him.
I feel like I related to him probably the most out of the new guys just because we both kind of saw eye to eye with how we viewed Frisbee. There'd be times where Blake and Tim would go crazy at each other and then everybody else would be kind of mad at each other and then we'd look at each other and be like, meh.
Everyone else started playing up at like a next level, just everyone. I think a big part of that is because they didn't have older guys above them, you know, so they kind of had to.
That summer, between my freshman and sophomore year of college, a few of us in the Chattanooga area wanted to make a club team. And so the super team they created was the 2013 Tanazi team. What it did was it exposed us to probably the highest level of Ultimate we could get our hands on. From there, I knew this is going to be a very competitive team.
I think people had submitted designs, and then we started with one of those and just started editing it in Photoshop. Yeah, nobody could make a decision, and we had a lot of money and needed to do something because, you know, for new players, making a change represents the change they feel the team has made. And so there's always going to be that change, and there needs to be. So when I got them, I was actually excited. I was like, man, I wonder what they're going to do. Like, how is this going to evolve?
Touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good.
All 3 years we had gone to sectionals and lost in close games, except my first year where we got bageled, skunked, and every bad term there is.
Going to sectionals on Saturday, and our first game is against the first seed in our pool in Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech would be our hardest competition that day. They're a team that had kind of plagued us before. They'd beaten us really badly at other tournaments. But I knew that we had gotten so much better and we're such a calm team that now we could deal with Georgia Tech.
Like, we're just watching them warm up. These guys don't expect you guys to give them a game. Like, go run them in the fucking dirt. If you guys get a block and then run them in the ground on the turn, they're going to give up.
We handled them pretty well, and we started off the day with a win against the number 1 seed in our pool. We had the mindset of we just don't care. We're out here to play our game, not worried about who we're playing against, and it showed on the field. The next 2 teams were against lower seed teams, but we took care of business there, and then our last game was against Kennesaw State.
So Kennesaw has always been that kind of litmus paper to the program. I think a lot of people knew that bids would come down to teams like us or Kennesaw.
It's a good little rivalry game, and early in the game, and I dislocated my middle finger. Never forget, I had to be rushed to the ER, so I waited about 2 hours before they could pop it back in.
2 more points after Zach hurts his finger. I'm cramping up, and then we have to use mainly our young guys to win the game.
We ran out TP, we ran out Augie, we ran out Patty Cooper. We made it as hard as possible for Kennesaw to score, and they just gave us the disc.
Next thing you know, our coach comes with me, and he gets a text from a player saying, hey, we beat Kennesaw, and we clinched a spot to regionals.
I don't want this to sound like I'm less proud of Zach or Cody or Blake for like playing their asses off and getting a little hurt and like not getting to play a whole lot in that Kennesaw game, but I was so proud of Patty Cooper and TP and Augie because those were the guys that had been there on the sideline all year, and like they were the reason that we got to go because they didn't play a whole lot in the games before that. They played every point pretty much. That was their moment.
To be honest, I did have this feeling. It was actually a great feeling. It sounds like a negative feeling, but I had this feeling that like I had been carried by the team. As a captain, that's what I was most proud of, is that I felt like I didn't throw every score, I didn't catch a lot, and I played a role where I was mostly trying to like let go of the reins and not push myself so hard and just only push myself on defense. Everybody started throwing scores to each other and we just won.
I saw going and making regionals was a pretty good achievement and hard work, especially for the program, just because our class in particular was really down on our luck coming in because we didn't win a single game. Some games we didn't score a single point. So in order to make it to regionals, it really felt nice to take games off of good teams that had more well-established programs, and we could just walk in and say, this is our bid now. We're a regionals team.
It was really cool to be part of. Everybody was super psyched. You know, it was a new chapter, and we could finally realize that we are good enough and we can accomplish what we can by trying hard and turning on that extra switch.
As soon as we got into regionals, it was like an ocean hitting me, and I didn't care what happened after that. I just felt like everything had gone as planned for all the preparation and work Tim and I had put in and trying to get into the right moments in tournaments. I was still saying, we're going to nationals, guys. But that was getting harder and harder to believe as some things stacked up against us. We almost didn't go to regionals because we couldn't field a team. I think we had 9. And we didn't do well because I think we felt like we had succeeded in our goal. Even though we hadn't, our goal was nationals, but for whatever reason, we felt like we had succeeded in our goal.
when you're in a program that has a finite amount of time, you look around and you try to find the people that embody what you have found the program to be. And in a way, it's almost like a passing of the torch. The story for Swamp was going to keep going, and that the centerpieces and the main characters were going to be that group.
I don't think we achieved that goal with the most talented team, but what we did have was a group of guys that wanted it a lot.
Going to regionals is something we felt like we deserved as a team, something I felt like I deserved as a player. And it felt more like frustrating than anything, knowing we couldn't get a win.
Just, man, we worked our rears off at practice, and they were extremely competitive. But then, there's times where, we all show up and everybody thinks we need to do a different thing, and it's just complicated, and guys are going at it. And
I think more so than when we took over in 2014 is we formally asked Tori to be a coach that year. I think it was something that was necessary for the team to undergo. Like, it needed a coach, and I thought Blake had a more necessary role of being like a lightning rod. Blake is like an emotional leader, and that was almost more critical to the team at where it was at. We had a bunch of guys that were relatively new to Ultimate and could pick up a little bit of strategy, but if we didn't have the fire and the passion behind it, we weren't going to do anything. Chase, we actually already knew. I guess we had worked on recruiting Chase for a few years at that point. I guess 1 year, because he played with us at a few tournaments that didn't matter.
He came to impress, he was just insanely positive about the game and the sport, and just wanted to keep playing and meet everyone.
He had his long hair. He didn't say much of anything, and he was kind of baby-faced. I just remember him making a play under in the end zone. Someone made a cut to the break side, and Chase just made this play under and laid out chest high, and I was like, cool, this kid can play Ultimate probably better than half of us can. This is great.
I remember playing an alumni game, and the older guys were commenting on just how freaking fast Jason can go deep.
Jason grew into himself. Everything that I was like, Jason just needs to learn how to do this, Jason learned how to do.
Jason was kind of a dark horse. He was fast, but it was his effort that I noticed first.
By the end of his sophomore year, he was doing it all.
So I met Josh at the club fair that I kicked off the fall semester, and Josh comes up to me while I was running the Ultimate booth and says, hey man, I'm interested in playing Ultimate. I was like, that's cool, dude. Are you here with the older brother? Because I really thought he was some high school kid that was with his older brother in college.
Josh was one of those people I kept an eye on, and I wanted to see perform really well because I knew he could. And his freshman year was probably one of the best freshman years I've ever seen. I mean, the guy was getting layout Ds. Me and him were going back and forth trying to get more layout Ds than one another. And I had to take a step back at it sometimes and go, this kid's a freshman.
Ethan brings not only height, but great cutting abilities. So you may think he's going to beat you deep just because he's tall, but if you play back, he's going to burn you under all day.
And I just see the way the kid moves, and it's quick, intimidating kind of quick for how young he was. And I remember him struggling with throws to begin with, but he worked on that all year and eventually became a very solid freshman defender.
Millie. That year we had 3 Sams come in. We needed nicknames for all 3 Sams. And when I played club with Bullet, we were out of Milledgeville. And every time those guys talked about Milledgeville, they called it Millie. So right there, I was like, Sam Milligan. I think Millie would be a pretty sick nickname for that kid. Joe Connors. Me and Aaron were sitting there talking Ultimate, and then some kid with a Frisbee and a National Summer League jersey comes walking up, just playing with the Frisbee in his hand. And we're like, who is this guy? We're like, so do you want to play Ultimate? Have you ever considered playing? I was like, yeah, I would love to play. I just never thought this college had a club team.
One of those players that always ran his ass off at practice because he was 100% all the time. And I think that's why he got to be so talented.
We added another great handler to play along with Blake and Tim, who are already good handlers.
He was able to sculpt younger players into being a lot better.
Very excited, and he talked about how much he really was looking forward to playing. And when it came time to, step on the field, he played a huge role in developing those players that we look up to now.
I think I went into the series a little too optimistic.
I just remember us feeling like we have the biggest shot that we've ever had. And I know Blake, Tim, and I wanted to make it as good of a shot as we possibly could because it was our last year.
And I found you with a bottle of wine, your head in the curtains, and heart like the 4th of July.
Because when you're a captain, you don't get it on Saturday. You think of, what is my easiest path to get into regionals? We lost to Georgia Tech. Mm-hmm. We lost to UT. That was like one of our early games. And I pulled Tori and Blake aside. I was like, we only have to win one game. Don't tell anyone. If anyone asks, just be like, I don't know. Like, we'll worry about it later. So I think on Sunday, our first game was against Emory. And at this point in time, Emory's doing great this season. Luckily, we could handle them without much trouble because they didn't have a whole lot of depth at that point in time. But I think not having that pressure of having to win that game really helped us do well.
I just remember the last game for Blake, Tim, and I just being pretty emotional and just being like, we gotta play real well and make this count as much as we possibly can, and there's only so much that we can do. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for the best, but I mean, I was satisfied. We as seniors kind of embedded some good attributes to how a team should function, including have fun and play your heart out as best you can, and just make sure you play Frisbee and enjoy the people that you're playing with at the same time, and not overdo one and not do enough of the other.
I honestly still I think I would say College Ultimate was my favorite time playing Ultimate. I don't know, man. There's just something about it and what made it better was some of my closest friends played. And so it was something that I could go out with my brothers and go to work.
As much as like Blake and I bickered on the Ultimate field, he was my best friend. He was the person that for the past 4 years I learned how to play with. And it was kind of like, for me, it was like, damn it, this was like mine and Blake's chance to do something for UTC.
Chris, in 1 year, while going to graduate school, he's still going to every practice, he's still going to every tournament, and while at those tournaments playing almost every point hard, laying out all over the place. I loved it. I was very happy to play with Chris.
What we should have been was second string, but we couldn't have a second string. So, we were relied on very heavily from the get-go. And I think that made us better, not only as us three together all 4 years, but us being able to pick apart things and learn from mistakes very early on, and that kind of build up strength in our team.
Once we got elected to being captain, that night we just looked at each other like, let's get going.
Honestly, deep inside, I wanted to be better than Blake and Tim. If I was going to be a captain, if people were going to vote me, my number one goal, my biggest fear driving me all year is that I wanted to place higher than them. I wanted to be better than them.
Leaving them the way that they were, there was so much more room to grow, and it was great because not everybody had quite reached their potential yet.
Cody, Zach, and Foster were just, you can't beat those guys. 3 of my best friends
who I knew for a couple years, and then they became captives.
Once they started kind of being the leaders of the team and once they moved into that captain position, I think that was really when the team kind of started to change dynamic. You definitely saw the way that it came less of, hey, come play for me and come play on my team, and come play with us and let's fight for this together.
What we were able to build with the program was longevity because of the traditions we created and things like the Frisbee house that kept players involved, and having formals and socials that kept players coming back. Not only that, but we took on the mental aspect that the redshirt players before us gave us about grinding it out and playing hard. We were able to take both of those together and kind of combine them into finding a way to compete at the highest level, but making sure we could get players to come back and actually give them something to talk about their college years.
Swamp was really close to being really good. They lost a few close games, and the thing that I enjoyed the most is that that bunch of guys was really pissed off about it because their aspirations were very high. That team wanted to be great.
I can't go through all these good plays without mentioning this one first because I watch it over and over again, and every single time it feels like I'm there. And it was that greatest that we had against Georgetown.
First time to go to Eastern qualifiers. We think, we haven't played any of these teams. It'll be a fun time. To play some better competition. These teams are definitely better. We never really let it get to us. We always have the underdog mentality. We are always the worst team to come to this tournament. We will kick your ass.
So I was close to last act, and I see Foster throw a very lazy flick that starts tailing out of bounds.
Probably my fourth turnover of the day. Goes straight out of bounds, and I'm thinking, I do my little lean, like, oh man, I really hope somebody gets that. And here comes Tim, just, he tries to catch it, and it just goes freaking flying out of bounds.
Foster threw it up line, and the defender tipped it. It just floated in a certain way, and I was like, I'll go get it.
Everyone's cleat bag and stuff, and there's coolers everywhere. You just dive it straight into it.
And the next thing you know, Tim, full bid layout, gets it and scoobers it back in.
I didn't even know where it was going. I just got a good grip on it and just slung it backwards.
I think he landed either on or very near our speaker.
And then you see it come back into frame.
Still, everybody was like, oh, he turned it. Wait a minute, disc is still in the air.
And then I'm thinking somebody needs to go and get that now.
And then I don't really see anyone there. Next thing you know, before it hits the ground, last second.
Obviously, if anything wrong happens in a game, I just see Cody flying out of nowhere. And then proceeds to stand up.
Stands up immediately. Doesn't even fix his hat. I'm pretty sure he can't even see.
So I look back, and there's a hat covering his eyes. Cody cannot see it thing downfield.
Launches it into the end zone, hoping somebody's going to be there.
And then, of course, Zach, he doesn't look like he's good at all, but he just, ends up in the end zone somehow.
30 or 40 yard huck to Zach, just perfect in stride in the middle of the end zone.
And Zach Avella was just wide open.
I don't tell a lot of people this, But when I first tried to stop rotation, I thought that thing was going to slip right out of my hands. I felt it jerk out of my hands for 1 second, but luckily I was able to hold on and not screw up the entire play.
Makes it easier to bear. Yeah. You won't regret it, no. Young girls, they don't forget it. Love is their home, happiness.
Sounds so soulful, don't you agree? I invented sweat.
I started playing high school ultimate with Zach Avello and Blake Waldron, and through the years they were the captains of the high school team and went on to go to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga and play for the SwampDoc. And so I became captain of Blackman Ultimate. And when it was my turn to choose a college, like all the captains before me, I chose to go to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. And I honestly think 40 to 50% of that choice was because of Ultimate Frisbee.
David was a rare find, a quick, shifty lefty handler that people hated guarding.
He was asking like really detailed questions about like, how do I get better at this throw, or like what do I do better in this situation? And that was something that he hadn't been doing before. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because it didn't even occur to him until he became a captain. It really brought out the best in him, being a captain did.
The captain title really made him work and want to be the best he could be. I know, I feel like everyone wanted to impress him and everyone listened to him. And working with him, it was really different because we had such a deep respect for each other. We would really spend time listening to each other and understanding our own viewpoints, what we wanted. And that was taken into account into what eventually came to fruition.
One thing that definitely influenced the way that we captained was getting help from outside community. We were able to bring in assistant coach Chris Newsom. We continued the coach with Tori. We brought in Spaz as coach. And I think that really helped Jason and I worry about what was going on field and not so much about whether the practice was going to be flat or a dud or not.
What more can I say? We killing them. Hold up, before we end this campaign. As you can see, we embodied the damn lames. Lord, please let them accept the things they can't change. And pray that all of their pain be champagne.
I think for the offense, it was just, obviously we got slapped in the mouth, like immediately coming out the gate. And so for us, it was just, let's get our first goal, let's settle. Once we get that first goal, we know we'll find our rhythm and let our defense pick us up from there.
At some point, someone said, stop trying to play to beat this team and play SwampDoc Ultimate.
I've returned. Anyone stepping on me, you'll get burned. Cause I got lyrics, but you ain't got none. If you come to battle, bring a shotgun. But if you do, you're a fool, cause I do to the death. Trying to step to me, you take your last breath. I got the skill, come get your fill. Cause when I shoot the gift, I shoot the kill. I came to get down, I came to get down. So get out your seat and jump around. Jump around. Jump around. Jump around. Jump up and get down. Jump, 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 jump.
I just think that positive energy really led to our success. Like, that's a perfect example of that. We went down, and previous teams could have really just taken it out on each other and lost that game. But, you know, we got hype. That was just an incredible experience. That was I think that's my favorite game of my college career.
Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, trying to play me out like as if my name was Sega. But I ain't going out like no punk bitch. Get used to one style when I might switch it up.
Don't give up, I know you can see all the world and the mess that we're making. Can't give up and hope God will intercede.
So being at regionals and drawing them again, with our goal being the Sunday, looking at that game on the schedule, you knew going into regionals in pool play, that game determines our season.
It just gave me chills how bad I wanted it and how bad everyone else wanted it. It was just a huge game. It was a big game. And it was a tight game. It was back and forth the whole time. And we were on the line. And I was like, we got this, dude. We're going to do it.
I remember all the older guys. You could just see it. Like, it meant the world to them. And it was awesome to just see everybody, like all the vets, just take over in the game. No matter what, we were getting the Sunday.
And I try to give you what you need. Me and you and you and you, I just wanna be free, yeah, yeah.
It's a team sport, and it truly was the team's success. And I'm so thankful that I was able to be the captain at that point.
For some reason, one memory comes to mind is David Thomas coming up to me and just hugging the hell out of me and being so happy that we had finally reached our goal.
Just seeing everyone else's face to see that goal come true, and like everyone cried, everyone was so happy. We weren't even out of the tournament yet, but that was so rewarding. That was one of the most rewarding things I've ever experienced.
The moment we won, I saw the person catch it in the end zone, and we won the game. The first person I gave a hug to was Paul.
Yeah.
I hugged him and I thanked him so much for all he'd done. We still had Sunday to play, and I knew that, but I knew that the milestone that we had set was reached because of him, and I hugged him and I thanked him so much for just being there.
Mercy, will we overcome this? Oh, have we come too far to turn it around?
Ours was, I guess, a group of friends, but you guys are pretty close-knit too, though, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you just have more people.
Let me tell you a little bit of the SwampDoc.
When you're a part of it yourself, it's one of the best things in your life. But to know that other people are just as passionate about something, even if you don't know them personally, develops a sort of camaraderie or kinship with those people.
The time that you're putting in with these brothers who are also out there sweating and bleeding for the same goal as you, I mean, it's just hardly anything else like it.
Like a brotherhood. It was just so much fun. I learned so much from being around those group of guys. If I never played Ultimate again, I would still cherish all those relationships, and I would hope they go on forever.
The thing I probably missed the most of the friendships. I mean, it was so easy to hang out with the guys, and like, if you wanted to hang out with somebody, you just called them. You could meet them on campus in 5 minutes.
I don't think I loved anything so much than playing UTC Ultimate. My greatest memories isn't parties or isn't school of that matter. It was playing Ultimate with the guys I got to play with.
man, the community that we had and the stories that we were able to experience together, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Ultimate Frisbee. I'm actually taking a break from it right now. But if the guys from UTC Ultimate were like, hey, we're going to do a pickup game, you bet your ass I will be the first one to volunteer to play with them.
That's why we were called. The Swamp Donkeys.
Kick it? Yes, you can. Can I 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 kick it? Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Well, I'm gone. Can I kick it? To all the people who can quest like a tribe does. Before this, did you really know what live was? Comprehend to the track force, why? Cause getting mentions on the tip of the vibe buzz. Rock and roll to the beat of the funk fuzz. Wipe your feet really good on the rhythm rug. If you feel the urge to freak, do the jitterbug. Come and spread your arms if you really need a hug. Afrocentric living is a big shrug. A life filled with, that's what I love. A lower plateau is what we're above. If you diss us, we won't even think of. We'll nipper the dog and give a big shove. This rhythm really fits like a snug glove. Like a box of positives, it's a plus, love. As the tribe flies high like a dove.